Okay, good morning and Tashidelek. Today I'm going to read one story, okay? And the name of the story is The Beggar, which was written by Anton Chekhov. You know, Anton Chekhov is a great short story writer of Russia. He was not only a short story writer, but he had also written so many plays. Okay, yes. Now, as far as the short stories are concerned, he had written more than 200 short stories. Okay, and if you are interested in reading some of the short stories, you will find the link below. Okay, yes. Now, the story The Beggar, which was written by Chekhov, was set in Russia during the 19th century. Okay, and from the title itself, it is about a beggar who was a drunkard. Okay, so many things happen in the story, but in the end, this beggar who was drunkard, he fully gets transformed and he leads a perfectly normal life. Okay, yes. So there was one kind person who came in his life, okay, and that kind person was responsible for this transformation, okay, that transformation in the beggar's life. Now let us read the story and try to find out who that kind person was. Okay, yes. Now before we read the story, there are some important things you need to know about the story, any kind of story. Okay, yes. Now the first one is narration style. Now, if you read any kind of story, there will be one narrator who will be narrating the story. Now, on the basis of that narration, we have got two types basically. Okay, the first one is the first person, and the other one is third person way of doing the narration. You got it? Okay, yes. So in the first person narration, normally you will come across words like I and we, like, okay, and in the third person you will come across words like he, she, they. When we were small, we come across so many short stories, okay, and then most of the stories, they begin with once upon a time there was a king and he had two daughters, like this. Okay, the story starts with he, she, they. Now this narration is third person. Okay, now after reading this particular story, The Beggar, I want you to see what kind of narration is used. Okay, is it the first person narration or it's a third person narration? Okay, so I want you to do this. And the other one is you need to understand the 5 elements of a story. Whenever there is a story, there are some elements. Okay, now what are these elements? There are 5 elements in any kind of story. Okay, the first one is character. The character are the people or animal, anything that is in the story. And the second one is setting. The setting is where the story takes place. Okay, yes, the way the story takes place. And the third one is the plot. The plots are all the event that happens. The characters, they don't stay just idle in the story. There are so many activities, events. So these are all plots. And then we have the conflict and problem. Whenever there is a story, obviously there will be either a conflict or a problem, like this. Okay, so that, and the last one is the, what we say, resolution, and there will be a solution. All the problem or all conflict get solved. Okay, now these are the 5 elements of a story. So you have to understand all these things. Whenever you come across a story, you just check, you just look for all these 5 elements. Okay, character, setting, plot, conflict, and resolution. Now we are going to read this story, The Beggar, and in this story you will also come across these 5 elements. Okay, you just try to find out the character, setting, plot, conflict, and the resolution. You got it? So after keeping these two things in mind, let us read the story. Let us go to the story, The Beggar, which was written by Chekhov, a great Russian short story writer. Okay? Yes. This is the opening of the story. So in the opening of the story, we are introduced to the beggar. Okay, the beggar, he was begging and he was just saying, "Kind sir, have pity. Turn your attention to the poor hungry man. For 3 days I have had nothing to eat." Okay, so we were introduced to the beggar. The beggar was actually saying so many things. He said that he had not eaten for 3 days. Okay, the first one. Second one, and he haven't have 5 kopecks. You know, kopecks means a Russian currency equivalent to a paisa. We have got paisa in India. So Russia, they have got kopecks. Okay, so he didn't have a paisa to pay for his lodging. Okay, and he also said that he was a village school teacher. He said that he was a village school teacher, but now he was not a teacher. Why? Because he had lost this job because of the intrigues. Okay, so intrigue means if you don't like that people try to create some kind of conspiracy. So he said that he got out of his job because his colleague had created some kind of conspiracy, and he had become a victim of that false statement, okay, calumny, okay, and because of that he lost his job. Now he was begging. You got it? So he was just begging on the street. So that is, we are introduced to our first character, that is the beggar. Okay, and now we are going to introduce our second character in the story, that is Mr. Sergei. Okay, Mr. Sergei, he is an advocate. You got it? So he was just listening to what the beggar was saying. Okay, and then what did he do? He just looked at the cloth of the beggar. Now the beggar was wearing a fawn-colored overcoat. He was wearing an overcoat which was brown in color. You got it? And suppliant means the person who was making the plea. So here we are talking about the beggar, because the beggar was begging. He was making a plea to all the people. Okay, yes. Now he just look at the eyes. What kind of eyes did the beggar have? The beggar had a drunken eyes. Okay, and he had got red spot on either cheeks. On both the cheeks, he had got red spot. Maybe he had drunk. Okay, yes. And then by looking at the dress and the eyes, it seemed to Mr. Sergei that he had seen that beggar somewhere before, but he just doubted. Okay, and then he did not say anything, and he just continued listening to the beggar. And what did the beggar say? The beggar said that recently he got a job offer in the province of Kaluga. So he said that he got a new job at the province of Kaluga, but there was one problem. The problem was he did not have the money to go there. You got it? Suppose you get a new job in Delhi, and you have to go to Delhi. But if you don't have money, then you won't be able to get the job. So he said that he got a job, but he did not have the money to go to the province of Kaluga. Okay, so that's why he was asking for money. He said that he was feeling ashamed. Okay, so the beggars, if you are a professional beggar, you keep on begging and there's no need for you to feel shy. Okay, but as far as this beggar is concerned, he said that he was a school teacher once. Now it was very difficult for him to beg. Okay, that's why he was feeling ashamed, and right now he was obliged to by circumstances. Okay, he was not begging out of fun or as a profession, but because of the circumstances he had to beg, and he said that he was feeling shy. Did you understand? So that is the opening of the story. We were introduced to the beggar, and the beggar was asking for money, and we are also introduced to the second character, that is Mr. Saigai. Mr. Saigai was an advocate, and it seemed to Mr. Saigai that he had seen that beggar somewhere before, but we did not know. So the beggar was asking for money. He was not a professional. By some, which is because of the intrigues of his colleagues, he had become a beggar. Okay, so he was a school teacher. Now let us see what would Mr. Saigai do next. Okay, yes. So the next one, Saigai, now after looking at the clothes, he just looked at the shoe of the beggar. So one of the shoe was high and the other one was low. So then by looking at the shoe, suddenly Mr. Saigai remembered something. Okay, by looking at the shoe, he remembered something. So what did he remember? Okay, let us see. Look here, it seems to me that I met you day before yesterday at Sadovia Street, he said. But you told me that you were a student who had been expelled and not a village school teacher. Do you remember? Okay, now what did Sergei say? Sergei said that he met the beggar yesterday, and yesterday the beggar told him that he was a student who got expelled from the school, and he was not a school teacher. But now today the beggar was saying that he was a school teacher. Okay, so Mr. Sergei asked the beggar whether he remembered telling him yesterday that he was a student and not a teacher. Okay, yes. Now suddenly the beggar was surprised. Beggar taken aback means beggar was surprised. Okay, he was little nervous and he just said something in a low voice, mumbled, okay, in a low voice. He said, no, that can't be so. Okay, he rejected, he did not accept that. And the beggar, he continued saying that he was a village school teacher and he was ready to show the proof. He had got proper document to show that he was truly a village school teacher. But Mr. Saigai said that he had seen that beggar yesterday, and he said that the beggar was telling lie about his identity. Okay, but we do not know. The beggar was saying that he was not telling lie. Mr. Saigai was telling the beggar was telling lie. Okay, and what did Mr. Saigai said? Have done with the lying. You call yourself a student and even told me what you had been expelled for. Don't you remember? Okay, so Mr. Saigai was once again, telling the beggar to remember what he had said yesterday. Okay, Mr. Saigai was very confident that that was the same beggar who told him that he was a student and that he had also told why he had been expelled from the story. Expelled from the school. Okay, so Mr. Saigai was very confident, okay, that the beggar was telling lie. There was something wrong with the beggar. So Mr. Saigai kept reminding him, okay, he was just asking the beggar again and again to remember. Okay, yes. Now, obviously, if we come across a person who tells lie, you don't like that, you dislike. Okay, yes, we don't like people who tell lies. Mr. Saigai was, Mr. Saigai flushed, man. Mr. Saigai was very angry. He had turned red, okay, and he just turned away from the rack, that beggar, with the expression of disgust. Disgust means something that you don't like, you dislike. Okay, you dislike people who tell lies. Okay, so this is it. Before us, we have got Mr. Saigai, who said that the beggar was telling lie, and on the other hand, we have the beggar who was saying that he was not telling lie, that he was truly a school teacher who had been kicked out of the school because of the intrigues by his colleague. Okay, so there are so many, that is the problem. Okay, now let us see what happens, what will happen in the story as we go on. Mr. Sarga was very angry, and we would also get angry if people which will start telling lies. Okay, yes. So what did Mr. Saga said? This is dishonesty, my dear sir. He cried angrily. Now he was very angry. He cried from the top of his voice that this is dishonesty and this is swindling. Swindling means cheating. Obviously, this is a cheating. And then what did Mr. Saga said? Mr. Saga said that now he would call the police. He would call the police because this beggar was cheating everybody. He was telling lie. Okay? Yes. So the moment the beggar heard the police, what did the beggar say? The beggar said, "Sir," okay, with his hand on his heart. Now it seems that he was telling everything true. Okay, yes, he was ready to tell the truth with his hand on his heart. The fact is that I was lying. Okay, now he confessed that he was lying. Mr. Saigai was right. The beggar was wrong because the beggar said that the fact was I was lying. I am neither a student nor a school teacher. So he was neither a student nor a school teacher. All that was fiction. Fiction means not true. Okay, yes, that was a story. Okay, yes. So who was he? No, he said he was neither a student nor a school teacher. Now, who was that beggar? Okay, so let us see. What did the beggar say? Formerly, I sang in a Russian choir. So Russian choir is a group of a singer that sings in a church or some program like this. So he was a singer in a Russian choir, but was sent away for his drunkenness. You know that he was a great singer in a Russian choir, but he loved drinking. Okay, yes. So because of too much drinking, he had been sent away from the choir. Now he did not have anything. Okay, so if he was a choir, and why did he have to tell lie? Okay, yes. But what else can I do? He said that, what else can I do? Okay, he said that actually, he was a singer in a Russian choir, but he tried to hide his identity. Okay, yes. So he said that, what can I do? I can't get along without lying. He cannot do anything without lying. If he did not tell lie, then people would not give him anything. That's true, isn't it? If you are drunkard, if you keep on drinking, then if you start begging, people would not give you money because they will think that if they get money, then again you will just spend the money in drinking alcohol, isn't it? So that was the thing. No one will give me anything when I tell the truth. What can I do? What is the truth? The truth was that, he was a singer in a Russian choir, and then he had been kicked out of this group because of his drunkenness. Okay, now if he start begging, the people would not give money. So that is the truth. So in order to get some money, it was he had to tell lies. Okay, so he was telling the truth to Mr. Saigai finally, isn't it? Yes. So he said that, what can I do? I don't have any other options. Okay, and then Mr. Saigai, what did he say? He said, what can you do? You are asking me what you can do? Okay, and then Mr. Saigai said, work. Okay, Mr. Saigai told the beggar that instead of just begging, he can work. Okay, so Mr. Saigai, work. That is what you can do. At least you can do. Okay, you must work. And let us see whether the beggar was ready to do work or not. Okay, now what did the beggar say? The beggar said, work. Yes, I know myself, but where can I work? Now the beggar said that he knew that he should work in order to get some money, but the problem was, where would I get the work? He said that he did not get any work. Okay, and then Mr. Sagar, what did he say? Would you love to chop wood for me? So we are talking about Russia, isn't it? It is very cool, and we are talking about Russia in 1800s. Okay, so we don't have the heaters like this. So during winter time, people need to keep lots and lots of wood uh, to make fire to warm themselves in their homes, isn't it? So Mr. Sagar said, asked him whether he was ready to chop wood. Chop wood means to cut wood for him. Okay, yes. And what did the beggar say? The beggar, I would not refuse to do that. So beggar said that he was not rejecting this offer. He was ready. But in these days, even skilled woodcutters find themselves sitting without bread. So, but he was trying to, what should I say, stay away from work. Okay, he said that even the good skilled woodcutter, they did not, what should I say, get any job. Okay, so they could not earn their own bread. So how come I can get the work? Okay, so he was trying to, what should I, make an excuse. Okay, and then what did Mr. Sagai said? Sagai said, will you come and chop wood for me? Now Mr. Saga was giving him the work. What did the beggar say? The beggar said that he did not get any work. Okay, that wasn't maybe an excuse. But Mr. Saga, he was very kind and he was just offering a job, okay, for this beggar so that instead of begging, he could earn his own money, isn't it? And which we say, what did the beggar say? Beggar said, yes, sir, I will. Okay, so the beggar, he said that he was ready to chop the wood. Okay, very well. Soon we will find out. Okay, now Mr. Sagai, and he finally gave him the work. Okay, and then they left for home. You got it? So up to here, did you understand? Yes, we are introduced to the two characters, the beggar and Mr. Sagai, who was an advocate. Mr. Sagai said that he had met this beggar before, and the beggar was confessed finally that he was telling lie. He was trying to hide his identity. What was his true identity? His true identity was he was a choir. He was a singer in a Russian choir, and he had been kicked out of from his work because of his too much drinking. Okay, because of his drinking habit. Okay, now he did not have any work, he did not have any money. Now if he tell the truth to the people, if he tell the truth, okay, if he which told about his true identity, that he was fond of drinking, do you think the people would give money to him? No. So that's why he had to tell lie. He had to, hide his identity. So instead of telling all the things about his true identity, sometimes he said that he was a student, and sometimes he said that he was a school teacher. So he was trying to, get the money by, showing all his emotion like this. You got it? And Mr. Sagai, he, caught him telling lie, and he made the beggar confessed about his identity. And then, Mr. Sagai also, decided to give him work. And what was the work? The work was to chop wood for him. Now, the beggar said that he was ready to chop the wood, and let us see whether he was able to do the work properly or not.